This weekend, UFC, Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall. Excellent double billing at the top of the card. We have a loaded card top to bottom. I think in terms of depth and value, they actually did a pretty good job here. I like a ton of these matchups. Something that it's very interesting that I've had my eye on. The money line and the betting market is all over Paddy Pimblett, right? They've brought the dog money in on him. I just checked it. It's like minus 115, minus 110 for Green. The betting market, the sharps, seem to be on Paddy. He came out today and said he's been dealing with an intense depression. His coach almost pulled him from the fight, and he has some other things going on outside the octagon. To me, that's a bigger indicator than any type of, I guess, betting market or movement in that regard. So I'm very curious to see how that situation plays out here. That's most definitely something I have my eye on. I still lean Bobby in that matchup, right? Just solely due to footwork and pedigree alone and everything's like that. Also, just a quick little jab here. If MMA math was real, Matt Hamill's the GOAT because he has the only win over John Jones,
I,
right?
I I think I saw that video a
Yeah.
while ago, right? Yeah, that's funny you bring that up.
Yeah,
That's
it all
funny.
goes back to Matt Hamill, and the 12-6 elbows just got unoutlawed
Yeah,
today. They just got legalized. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another riveting episode of the Better Sports Show. I'm Ryan. I'm here with Randy. Randy, how you doing tonight?
Ryan, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I saw Blink 182 at Fenway last night. It was a great show. This morning, I woke up wearing a pair of Vans, a skateboard next to my bedside. I yelled out, "Fuck you, Keith. You're not my real dad." I don't even have a stepdad, but I still just had to yell it because it's what Pop Punk would have wanted. And yeah, that's just how I'm doing right now. I'm on that juvenile delinquent high. Maybe I'll come down. Maybe I don't. We'll see what happens.
Sounds risky. Sounds risky, but that's a chance I'm willing to take.
Never tell me the odds. I always want to take the chances. We're a gambling show after all, right? Taking chances is what we're all about. You want to be sharp and fade the public. And that kind of leads me into the first thing I want to talk about tonight. I was thinking today about the NFC Championship game from last year. As guys do throughout the day, we think about various football games from years past and the lead up to that game. Everybody said, "Oh yeah, if you're a sharp, you're on the 49ers. And if you're public, using public as an insult, you're on the Lions. You don't want to be a dirty public better, right? With the unwashed masses jerking yourself off. No, you want to be a sharp better up in the ivory towers, looking down at everybody." And look what happened. The Lions covered the spread. They probably should have won the game, but God just hates them. And the sharps were left holding the bag while the public had tickets to cash. And the reason I talk about that point is because often I find there's a lot of groupthink that's assigned to these, labels. Who defines something as sharp? Who defines something as public? Just because the large majority of people who are casual bettors, don't bet every day, don't have all the software going, aren't putting down 5 to 6 figures on a game. Just because they're on one side and fewer people are on the other side, you can't just be contrarian and automatically assume the public side is going to lose while the contrarian side is automatically going to win. If it was that simple, there would be a lot more winning sports bettors out there. I've also found there's a baseline obsession with just being different in the sports betting space. If your own conclusion puts you on the side of a game that's like the home favorite or the public side, that's okay because you want to come to your own conclusions and build your own system. And at the end of the day, betting your own money, you want to make your own decisions, not just tailing what somebody on Twitter says is sharp or what the wise guys in Vegas are betting. Because think about it, you could take your fucking dick, you could stick it in an electrical outlet. That would be very contrarian, now would it? But it wouldn't be too sharp, now would it? So, you want to come to your own conclusions. Just because you're going with the sharp crowd still means you're going with the crowd. Avoid that groupthink, and ultimately you can come out on the other side. Because remember, the sharps only hit between 55 and 63%, and 63% is fucking exquisite. That's very difficult to do, right? I've had runs where I've been on that, and people are like, "How you doing this?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but you better not get used to it because it's not gonna fucking last." So just a little rant I had to go on there about these groupings, these labelings, the group think shit like that. It's about coming to your own conclusions.
Yeah, I'd agree. Using your own fucking brain once in a while is probably a sound advice. Really, in anything in life. I would probably, you know, uh, I wouldn't err away from public opinion or public majority, just because. but right, it's just in general. It's not to say that one side is more correct more often than the other, but it's probably a good idea to use your judgment and to not base just whole numbers to base your opinion, right? So to even go further into that, right? Like the advanced metrics and how science bros have kind of tried to take over just about every aspect of sports, and it really doesn't work. Do some advanced metrics have a story to tell, and there's some proof behind that? Sure. But when you start getting like really, really deep into the nitty gritty, after all, this is sports, and anything can fucking happen. So it's whenever you see a public, a majority one side public betting, and then you have the contrarian side to just fade it. It's, you know, all we're talking about is which side is going to win the coin flip at the end of the day. I mean, one of them got to win. There's only two ways. You know what I mean? There's the winning side and there's the losing side. It's not eight options we're really choosing from. So, I mean, again, it's probability at the end of the day. What I like to tell people is again, how you get to feel more comfortable losing. Would you rather lose on your own decision or would you rather lose listening to what somebody else said and following them? You know what I mean? I'd rather lose all day, every day on my own terms. If I like an underdog, I'm going to fucking play it. If I like a favorite, I'm going to play it. I'm not going to really let other betters kind of lead me in one direction or another. Oftentimes, if I feel led in another direction, from other bettors, that's typically where I actually kind of stand my ground. I feel a little bit more confident in my selection. But, you know, everybody's going to be different when it comes to what sways their opinion in the domain of sports betting, particularly.
Anytime I give a pick out and somebody messages me telling me it's gonna lose or they think it's bad, that's actually a very good sign. I have an excellent win rate on those picks, but anytime I give a pick out and people are like, "Yeah, bro, go for it," it's like, "Oh, I don't know." So yeah, it's all about coming to your own conclusions, just doing your own thing. And to talk about the stats and the metrics a little bit there, I'm gonna give you an example of metrics bias and stats bias. The Carolina Hurricanes in the NHL are the darling of stats nerds because of a type of game they play. They play a very possession driven game, tons of shots on net. All the metrics they have pop in models, spreadsheets, data, and things like that. However, just because they excel at those particular stats does not automatically translate to them being an excellent team, particularly in the playoffs. Every year the playoffs roll around, they're a Vegas favorite, the Sharps are on them, and they lose to a more, I guess, traditional public type of team. Rangers Hurricanes from last year was an excellent example of that. Hurricanes have all the underlying numbers, but the Rangers got the better goaltending. They got the guys, so to speak, in the top six, and the Rangers end up beating them. The Sharps overlook and overvalue things all the time. And to your point, there are some sports you just can't automatically quantify. Like baseball, I get it, right? Baseball, you can use a lot of stats there and you can make a lot of money using stats. But hockey, intensely volatile sport. MMA, very matchup dependent. All the stats you have from previous fights may not be applicable due to the style
Oh,
matchup.
fight
Yeah,
math
fight math is
absolutely
awful.
does not work at all. I mean, you got Bilal Muhammad out here this week talking about he becomes one of the best welterweights of all. To get the fuck out of here. Yeah, whenever anybody starts spitting MMA math at me, I'm like, you literally, I mean, literally, the only math that's quantified in MMA is literally through film study and or coaching. I mean, even your own personal experience in MMA. A lot of the times, actually, if you want great picks, look for all the fighters that are sponsored by my bookie or whatever it is, the picks that they give out every week before the fight. Oh man, fighters are some of the most atrocious betters when it comes to picking other fighters. They have no clue. They have, if anything, even more bias than anybody else. But yeah, as far as stat math, MMA, forget about it. That's probably the biggest sinkhole for your money for sure.
Oh, yeah, and also we were talking about losing and winning based on your decisions. The worst decision to lose is one where Sal D'Amato was involved. But after that, the ones where you just tail other people and you go against your gut instinct and you end up losing, you're like, fuck, man, why'd I do that? That's just a swift kick in the balls, and you don't want to be doing that. And speaking of Sal D'Amato, this weekend, UFC. Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall. Excellent double billing at the top of the card. We have a loaded card top to bottom. I think in terms of depth and value, they actually did a pretty good job here. I like a ton of these matchups. Something that's very interesting that I've had my eye on. The money line and the betting market is all over Paddy Pimblett, right? They've brought the dog money in on him. I just checked it. It's like minus 115, minus 110 for Green. The betting market, the sharps, seem to be on Paddy. He came out today and said he has been dealing with an intense depression. His coach almost pulled him from the fight, and he has some other things going on outside the octagon. To me, that's a bigger indicator than any type of, I guess, betting market or movement in that regard. So I'm very curious to see how that situation plays out here. That's most definitely something I have my eye on. I still lean Bobby in that matchup, right? Just solely due to footwork and pedigree alone and everything's like that. Also, just a quick little jab here. If MMA math was real, Matt Hamill's the GOAT because he has the only win over John Jones, right?
I think I saw that video a
Yeah.
while ago, right? Yeah, that's funny you bring that up.
Yeah,
That's
it all
funny.
goes back to Matt Hamill, and the 12-6 elbows just got, unoutlawed
Yeah,
today. They just got legalized.
no, but I feel like it's gonna take a long time till we really see it intentionally because it's so ingrained in most people's minds now that it's just not a legal move. And then plus to be in that particular position, I mean, I could be wrong. We could see a 12-6. I'd be surprised if there wasn't a prop on FanDuel. Is there a finish by 12-6 elbow
Oh, yeah. No,
in
I'm
the
sure.
upcoming event the first time it's legal? But uh, yeah, as far as the Patty Pimblett thing, from what I saw, yeah, that was 3 weeks ago. His coach was going to pull him, but again, when I most fighters don't have very stable personal lives, I would say. And this is combat sports after all. It's a bit of a different pickle than other sports. So, in my opinion, anything to do with personal life and not directly with the sport, I feel like really won't shouldn't have much bearing on an MMA fight. If this is other sports, we know whenever it's anything like that, guys will go on leave uh, for a week. It's happened before. There's a player won. Oh wait, no, it was it Lane? I want to say it was Lane Johnson from the Eagles last year. He had a whole thing where he stepped away from the game for like 2, 3 weeks. He was considering retiring. Came back. Not much was said about it, and he spoke on it later in the season. He was thinking about retiring. He was heavily depressed, all that, and then he had a fantastic year. So a lot of, I feel like if it was that much of a factor, he would have pulled out from the fight, and we wouldn't be reading about it now as a story. The fact that he's still in there, it's probably more of a motivator. But again, that all that shit goes out the window in a MMA fight. You know what I mean? Bobby Green's not going to give a shit about what he's going through. He's coming at him all the way, and Patty's getting in a cage. If there's any doubt, because any coach of a fighter would know any doubt in their fighter, they're not going to put them in there, not even if it comes up night of. You know what I mean? Because that's the worst position a guy could be in if he's not even confident going into the cage. But if he's still working and the fight's on, I would personally consider it a no factor.
Yeah, so that's definitely something I'm kinda maybe I look at it, maybe I don't. It's always nice when we have the conflicting opinions here because it's like we said earlier, you gotta come to your own conclusions, right? At the end of the day, it's just you. All you
Yeah,
got is you when it comes to the sports betting stuff.
yeah.
Wild, wild world out there.
Well, and it's a 50-50
Fight, yeah.
odds that they have it on too. So for that, for me personally, to go back to what you said before, there ain't no juice, and it's if you think you're finding the right lean on it, chances are the odds makers. Again, if you look at that list of fights up and down, there's not many that are split, and that's one of the fights they have split. Uh, might be a fight of the night candidate, if I'm being honest with you, but to pick a winner out of that one, no shot out of me. I got no lean on that for you.
I lean Bobby in that one because that's what I would have told you coming into this fight, and I'm just gonna stand on, business there, as the kids would say.
I
How's
leaned I wanted to lean Bobby last time out, but I leaned on Jim Miller, and we saw how that fucking went. So, and it's a strong performance that he's coming off of, and compared to Patty's last performance, not impressive at all. So he's definitely got more steam coming in this one. That's for sure.
Indeed, he does. A lot of people think Patty's due for some exposing. We'll see. Also, just looking at the rest of his cards, something else I just found interesting. Manel Kape versus Muhammad Mukayev got bumped from the main card to the prelims and out of the early prelims. So I just wonder behind the scenes what's going on there. I don't think the UFC would do that because they've been so high on Makayev, giving him these like, featured spots. I'm very curious as to why they're doing that now. Maybe Cop came in out of shape. Maybe they think Makayev's just gonna wrestle fuck him for like 3 rounds and it's gonna be like boring. We'll see. So that's just something in general that, gets my spidey senses going. Other than that, though, to your point, somewhat difficult card to look at. Many of these odds wise are not close. The two main event fights. Vegas, it looks like they're very confident in Aspinall. They're fairly confident in Leon. I myself, I had the theory coming in that that's going to be the most popular parlay of the night, right? Both the British champions take it in the UK. I think the bust the parlays, the bookies would very much like one of them to lose. I don't know which one will, or if I'm confident saying one of them will, but that's just a little theory I had in the back of my head for anybody who's looking to smack that parlay, Aspinall and Leon to pay for your mortgage. Maybe hold off on that. So those are my overall general betting thoughts on the card. Just looking throughout here. We have some wild fights. We have Mick Parkin at like a over 3 to 1 odds or some shit like that. We got fucking
Meatballs on there.
yeah, meatballs on there. Yeah, so it's interesting
I,
card,
I
so to
want to
speak.
say she's like minus 300. I don't know if you have the odds in front of you on your side.
I'm
I
gonna
know
pull
she
best
she
fight
was
odds up.
she was listed quite high.
We're still doing that, huh? In the year of our Lord 2024, 3 to 1 on Molly McCann. That and Obon Elliott is a slight dog, so that's I like that. I may take that. I don't know. He got fucking he took a lot of damage in his last fight, but he was able to pull it out, get the victory, so we'll see. That was against Val Woodburn, I believe, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so very interesting card. Those are just my general thoughts. Not gonna lie, bit of a hard one, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, well, so we'll circle back to the UFC picks, and I because you didn't give out an official lean there, so we'll circle back and we'll wrap it all up because you mentioned just looking up and down the card, odds are a little bit inflated, and we have a couple other inflated odds around as far as MLB is concerned. A lot's kind of happening since the All Star break, and it's not been too long. So division updates really quick to keep on par with the past couple weeks. Orioles Yankees, as we always touch on first, it's an absolute shit show in the AL East. It's probably the most boring division in baseball right now, with arguably two supposed to be the best teams right now, just can't get it together. Orioles are 3-7 in their last 10, and the Yankees simply can't score with guys on base. A lot of solo home runs, but that's a bet where the production's been halted, and they look like shit. And the only trade rumor for the Yankees right now that I've seen, they were allegedly interested in Jazz Chisholm, but I saw a report today that they aren't sure with how he would fit in uh, with the clubhouse. So I don't know if that means that they're no longer interested in acquiring him. I think that's, is he the best person to pick up approaching the trade deadline? I don't know. I'm not even aware of their short list. I really haven't seen any buzzings about it at all, which is just kind of insane for a team that just needs a little bit of help on offense. Uh, I saw also a stat today, too, as far as on base slugging. Judge and Soto are pretty much top of the league, number one in the league. Everybody else, as far as like the order in the lineup, it's among the worst in the league. Literally, nobody on the Yankees is capable of batting. So that's the situation there as far as the AL East and the big World Series odds and all that. But what's interesting, the Astros did take the leap over the Mariners. As of right now, they are in the middle of a game at the moment of this recording, but they're tied at both 53 wins. But it looks like, again, I think the Astros, they might not turn back and they're just going to probably hold first place. I really do think for the majority of the rest of the season, most likely the rest of the season. But the bigger story is the National League Central. In my opinion, right now, this division is arguably the most wide open. in all of baseball. You got the Brewers at 59 wins. The Cubs are at the bottom at 49, but it's not them that I'm interested in. They are awful this year. But the Reds, they're both tied for last, but then you got the Pirates right now. 52 and 52 games over 500. They are the best team in baseball per the last 10 games. They are 8 and 2 over their last 10. Paul Skeens yesterday threw 9 innings already, first time in his career. They still lost, but looked sensational. Again, the most regrettable bet that everybody didn't take this year was Paul Skeens the second he hit the Cy
Yeah.
Young market. There's no way, especially after yesterday's showing. It's just, I believe the only people on the list, I don't have it in front of me, but it's Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler. And you just cannot make the argument that either of them are having nearly as good of a year as Paul Skeens is, which is just incredible for a rookie. It's really unheard of. With that being said, the Pirates really are right in position here to hop second, one game back from the Cardinals, and now they're fighting for a first place spot with the Brewers. Pirates might be a massive underdog story in another 2 months from now with the scope of the whole season. I did not see them making the leap that they've recently just made. Again, just being 8 and 2 in the last 10 is huge. When you look at the rest of the records around baseball, the Mets are still making a serious run in the middle of a Subway Series with the Yankees. But the Mets as well, they're the second best team in baseball right now, tied with the Diamondbacks per their last 10. Both of them are 7 and 3. So sneaky and quiet, good. And these are large indicators that we don't want to ignore post All Star break. Uh, it's probably not just a trend, probably not just a temporary trend. I could see this extending through the summer. It's hard to stop a team in baseball once they get hot through the summer. Um, Tom Thibodeau for the Knicks, he signed his extension as a coach. That's just general good news. You like to see good coaches stick around where they're improving a team. Uh, Bronny James, I want to know what you think about that. You've been following the drama at all with him developing through the summer league. The Lakers have pulled him. I'm not sure if that's a wise decision long run. I'm going to give you some buy or sell takes here in a second, and we're just going to
Okay. Yeah.
wrap up the last again, just current events of what we're missing. We got Michael Gallup retired from the Raiders. No statement from him. All he did was repost tweets with people wishing him well and everything. So, 28 years old and looking like he's in a great situation in Oakland with Devontae Adams on the other side there. Uh, Pretty shocking news today. And then aside from that, I don't know if you have any words on the TNT and Amazon deal. That TNT they did match. They were ready to retain the rights. Amazon was chosen by the NBA execs. The only real good news that I've seen, or just what's happening as a result of Amazon getting this 11-year deal with the NBA. At least for this year, right now, there's going to be at least 100 regular season games aired on NBC, and that's starting right at about the end of the NFL regular season. So that's what we've missed. That's what we got going on here. If you got anything to add, we got a little bit of buy or sell if we want to run through that again.
So to confirm, is Inside the NBA going to be staying?
So yes and no. So Chuck has already announced like a month or two ago that this year will be his final year, regardless of
Okay.
the deal that happens. So it's going to be his last year. But I believe Shaq said uh, in one of the final postseason games that if Chuck goes, I'm going. So it's probably the last year. I'd say it's probably the last year, and it's probably quiet. I would assume that Amazon has their guys that they want to take over the show, and they're not going to give them the quick boot, but it's more of a do your own send off, and you get a year to do it. It's a short, long notice because, and also it's an 11-year deal, right? So it makes sense. one of those years is a kind of a kickback to everybody who's kind of on board with that. And then after that, there's probably going to be a lot of cuts and a lot of how Amazon wants to handle the production. That's what I'd assume.
Yeah, so like you said, it's kind of like a corporate merger or like a restructure. Like, oh yeah, you're not getting fired. You're just getting, moved. You've moved departments, and then we're gonna slowly phase you out. So I don't know. I'm conflicted about any type of deal I see like that. It's becoming more and more expensive for sports fans to watch their team in every game. You're going to have to pick up a streaming service here, a cable package there, and that adds up over time for the average person. I really think that sports are so gigantic anyway. There's so much money being pumped into these teams, these leagues, these organizations. And I get it, right? TV deals are a big part of that. But it kind of smacks of greed. Like, do you really need to put those extra games a year on like Peacock or Amazon or something else just to have that extra, like, barrier of entry for the person who's just coming home from their shift and just wants to watch their team. That's my main takeaway from that.
I mean, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago on the blackout episode. It's and it's they're covering the whole scope of it. The NBA's just next.
Yep. Yep. NBA is next. And then luckily I'm a huge hockey guy. Since hockey doesn't know how to market itself, we may not be as vulnerable because we're not as popular. 3D chess thinking up here. Yeah,
Ah,
the advanced thinking.
ah,
Yeah, I like that. So
hell yeah.
that's from everything you just listed there, that's my main thing. Michael Gallup walking away. I'm not going to speculate on like medical issues or anything, but anytime you see an off season, we do generally lose one or two guys in like their late 20s, and you're like, really? Fuck, he's kind of young. Like Luke Kuechly, he was one of them.
Oh
Every
man,
camp, yeah,
goat,
goat.
goat of Carolina, goat. Not even debatable.
Not at all. He would have been a Hall of Fame. He may even be a Hall of Fame
I know.
guy.
I believe he is. I
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
he is.
yeah. I think
He's
he
got, and
is.
if
Yeah.
he's not, it's just like a matter of time for the years on the ballots. But I mean, he's definitely his jersey's for sure retiring. Carolina. He's arguably one of the best of all time, at least in this generation. Dude's an absolute savage.
Especially, yeah, a lot of people don't know just how good he was because he was kind of in a smaller media market. They didn't have a ton of huge, runs. They did have 2015, if I remember correctly, but other than that, yeah,
There's a
he's
great 30 for 30, I believe, out on him.
there is? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I believe there's a full 30 for 30 on Luke, man. I definitely encourage you to check that out. Great stuff, man.
I just might. So of, all the stuff you listed, those are my main takeaways.
All right, so we got some quick. I'm gonna shoot at you pretty much question style, sports betting style, and this is like the 18 pick parlay that we're putting together, but not really. Kind of with the topics that we just focused, but also some odds that we covered earlier in the episode. We're gonna tie it all together. You give me your quick take on it if you got one, or if you feel like it's just a simple yes or no. We keep it going. All right. So number one, right now, just went over it before. Pirates, right? 52 and 50. Brewers 59 and 43. The odds right now have the Brewers at minus 550 to win the division. The Pirates are plus 1300. Do you buy that the Brewers have that division locked up?
I don't buy it at all, especially in baseball. You see those gigantic winning streaks, those awful losing streaks every single year. In terms of an odds play, right? If you're going to bet one of those sides, obviously you bet the Pirates at the plus 1300. Now, I do think the Brewers win the division, but for that much of a mathematical gap, I don't think that's realistic at all, no.
I gotta say, I passed on the Paul Skeens future. I don't think I could pass on this one. The fact that that number is any higher than like plus seven, plus 800 to me is absolutely crazy, especially with the run that they're on. I wouldn't be surprised if that number changes tomorrow. Um, Bronny James missing the rest of the summer league season. Do we buy that this doesn't impact how he starts up in the regular season?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the summer league's concluded, right? They had the championship Grizzlies versus Heat on Monday, and then they just go into regular camp after a rest period. So I don't know if there would be any more games for him to miss.
From what I saw, I believe he. Hold on.
Are you saying they shut him down early, like into the
No, yeah,
summer league?
yeah. Like they shut him down early. Like, so yeah, Saturday he was spectating. Like he's not participating.
So I think what it is, all the media pressure, the hype around him, everybody commenting on his game, I think they're kind of worried that was going to be a little much. It's very difficult, I imagine. I know it's weird to say. Your name is LeBron James Jr. You're playing in the NBA, and the large majority of people think you don't deserve to be there. That can be a lot on a young athlete. I think they made the right decision, just kind of letting the hype die down, the media pressure die down. Let's bring him along slowly. Let's see if he can, contribute, be a rotational player. From what I've read from unbiased sources, because there are people out there who really want him to fail and people who really want him to succeed, his offense needs work. His shooting could use some coaching, but his defense is pretty good. He utilizes his wingspan very effectively. I think there's definitely a spot for him as a 3 and D guy in the NBA if he'll just take a little bit of time. It's just will having the name LeBron James Jr. rush his development, in my opinion. That's my take there.
Um, You know what? I'm with you on it. I'm with you on it. I think that's probably the most wholesome take possible on it. To be honest with you, I'm not a believer at all, but it'll be interesting to see because people use anything as a story too, if with a rough start. So it'll be interesting to see if that this is something to look back at or not, or if it's just a blip on the radar. Uh, so UFC uh, mentioned a little bit of it earlier on as far as the odds. Aspinall at a minus 440, Curtis Blades plus 310. Are you buying that Curtis Blades really doesn't have that much of a shot against Aspinall?
Not at all, especially considering we didn't really get to see this matchup play out in the first fight. Aspinall had the freak injury, Blades wins by TKO kind of on paper. It was just a weird main event. And everybody's kind of like, well, we didn't really learn anything from that particular matchup. Something that I do find very intriguing about that prospect. Tom Aspinall is the finisher. He doesn't really go beyond the first or the second round. He comes in, he knocks you out, he gets his arm raised post fight. Say that doesn't happen. Blade slows the pace down. Suddenly you're in deep water, uncharted territory. Defending a takedown in the third, the fourth, the fifth, those championship rounds is very different than defending a takedown in the first round. When you're fresh, you're invigorated, you have all the energy in the crowd behind you. If, say, for example, Blades takes like one of the first two rounds, right? 1-1 going into the third. If you're Aspinall, what do you do there? Do you adjust your game plan? Do you still just keep fighting for the finish, going for the knockout? If you do and you're hyper aggressive, I think Blades most definitely has an avenue to victory. Slowing it down, fighting against the fence, smothering, getting the takedown. Sure, if a crowd's going to be booing, they're going to be yelling, stand him up. But if he can just put a few rounds in the bank and he's going to the fifth, like up 3-1 or tied 2-2 against a gassed Aspinall, I could definitely see a win for him, so I don't necessarily buy the odds. Now, of the two I talked earlier, I think one of the British guys has to lose to bust the parlays. Gun to my head, that would be Bilal beating Leon, just because Leon I find is very low volume, and Bilal, I know the meme is that he could get into like a fatal street fight and it'll still go to a decision. Bilal is very high volume, even though his volume may not be as impactful as you may want it to be, right? I know that fight against Gilbert Burns, a lot of people had a sour taste in their mouth because Gilbert didn't have like a fucking arm or a shoulder and Bilal still couldn't finish him. He's kind of adopted the kind of Colby Covington cringe persona. I don't think that's who he is at all. I think he's just trying to play the media marketing game. I do think that would be my upset pick of the two. Because if you remember against Usman, I watched that fight. I bet Leon. I thought Usman won that fight when Leon walked away with a mixed decision there in that title defense. So we'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was going to be the next one I was going to say. I was going to say, do you buy the Bilal Muhammad at being plus 200, or do you think he has a better shot in this one as well?
Yeah, no, well, it's weird. I buy Muhammad, but I sell the idea that he's that large of an underdog. I think just stylistically, I know people don't like how Bilal fights, but that type of fighting, you're always going to be live against pretty much any opponent. As someone who's
Mhm.
a Leon guy, I love Leon Edwards. My biggest bet of my life was on him to beat Usman. I was on the right side of a head kick heard around the world. That was one of the best nights of my life, not gonna lie. Leon can be pretty low volume. He likes to pick his spots. He likes to get in the clinch work, but I've noticed he doesn't throw a ton of knees, a ton of elbows, right? He kinda just
Mhm.
holds the position, wins it, and then plans his next move. Bilal, if you remember his fight against Sean Brady, up against the fence, yeah, he's not throwing the knockout haymakers, but he's active. He's going for the takedowns. He's getting those little, the Diaz dirty boxing pop, 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 pop in there. So I do think, especially with the new scoring criteria, the judges, at least they told them that they don't value grappling as much, but based on some of the stuff we've seen, obviously that's still a fucking crapshoot.
Yeah.
I do think there's definitely a very, very realistic path to victory here for Bilal. Gun to my head, if I had to pick one of those guys to lose, Blades has a better chance to win than advertised. I still think Aspinall wins. However, Bilal at plus 210, oh, that's yeah, that's a very intriguing bet.
So for the last one, and definitely not least, and definitely an intriguing one, the odds came out for the Tony Ferguson fight. Michael Chiesa is a minus 440 favorite. The world's most beloved fighter that's still fighting for, well, we don't know why, but I guess glory. He's at plus 310. Are you buying that this is Tony's last fight if he loses?
No, I think if he loses
Oh,
here, they're gonna.
God.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What they're gonna do, I think, since he's such a good company guy and he's taking this fight in the Middle East against, like, you said it yourself. The whole thing about this fight is just weird. He should be fighting other legends, right? He should have just fought Nick Diaz on this card. Everybody would have been happy. It would have been great. I think what should
That would
happen.
actually be pretty fire.
I know,
That would
right?
that that
Right
would that
there.
would that, like, let this man cook. Hold on. He's tips
Let me cook.
glasses. This is
Let me
kind of
cook.
crazy. This is crazy. Nick Diaz and Tony Ferg. Man, that would be great actually. Damn.
It would have been amazing, right? What I think if he loses here now, is Tony a plus 310 against Chiesa?
Yeah.
No. Oh, so sorry. I'm saying in terms of like odds
Oh,
to win.
no, no. Tony's a
Yeah,
plus
yeah.
1,500 here, dude. There should be
Holy
like,
shit, really?
in my dude, what are we I mean, 8 straight isn't like a it's like the same thing like with Diego Sanchez on the way out. Man, you're not moving. You're not moving how you think you are. Your mind probably thinks you're responding, but like, man, one of the hardest things to watch. You want to really see like a horror movie? Go find the video on YouTube of like I believe there's no crowd. Yeah, it was during the bubble with no crowd. The Gaethje Ferguson fight, and put some headphones on and hear the thuds and the slaps from Gaethje to Ferguson. The damage from that fight is so terrifying, and to see the trajectory of since, it's, man, if he wins this, it's by a miracle shot. And I mean, everybody has a puncher's chance at the end of the day. But if we're putting odds and statistics on it, man, I've given out plus 310s and one on them. This ain't a plus 310. I mean, it's just not. It's just not, especially for a guy who's lost 8 straight. Kies is always in pretty sturdy shape. Totally different guy than where Ferguson's at. There's just, I mean, Chiesa doesn't even really have to do anything. He could take his time and just do a real point fight striking, go for your takedown, shoot. Don't even really go for the ground and pound. Just slowly work for submissions, and no damage is really done. Which I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route gone. It doesn't look like he really tries to finish him at any point, but just try to win for 15 minutes without taking any big risks. Because again, Tony's still Tony. Tony is gonna throw some weird shit out there 3 or 4 times throughout the fight if it lasts longer than one round. He will try something weird at some point, but yeah, I don't, a plus 1,000 at best, man.
So just to finish the thought, I think if he loses here, what they'll do is they'll give him kind of like a send-off fight, a retirement fight, so to speak. They'll book it in his backyard out in California, maybe put him as the main event of a fight night, right? He can have friends, family, everybody there from like the gym or something. They'll give him, I don't want to say an easy matchup, but they'll kind of do what they did with Robbie Lawler versus Nico Price, where they're like, all right, Robbie, we're gonna give you a guy who's gonna stand and trade with you. You're gonna win one, it's gonna be this. They'll kind of set something up like that, and maybe he rides off into the sunset. So, yeah, I don't see. I
One can
know the
only hope.
UFC. Yeah, one can only hope. I know the UFC is stone cold, but after he stepped in, remember he faced Nate Diaz on that card that got all scrambled up because Chimaev
Yeah.
decided to pull some shenanigans. I
Yeah.
think after that, Uncle Dana, generally when you step in for him on short notice, he always rewards you kind of like at the end of your career. I don't see Dana fucking him over here.
We will see, but that's all I got for you. That's about everything that's happened since last week.
I think we just covered everything we needed to. I think that was a very tight show there. We got the UFC this weekend. We talked some MLB. We talked some general betting advice and general sports news. Shout out to Jalen Brunson taking that discount in order to win. If the Knicks are able to get one, I think they have at least 3 years, I'd say, with this core, just mixing and matching pieces. The Villanova Knicks. I think they can really build a legacy there. And if they get the championship, he's going to be a fucking legend in that city. Like, number retired, front ballot,
Oh, for
right?
sure. I mean, he's
Yeah.
arguably, I believe the numbers on it. I think there was uh 12 double doubles in the past decade from point guards on the Knicks, not named Jalen Brunson, and I believe he had like 50 something last year. So definitely one of the best point guards and over the past 2 decades for sure. Arguably all time for them.
And the Mavericks are like, "Nah, we don't need to pay him."
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, we love it, baby. We love it. Hey,
So, yeah.
they seem perfectly content with the way it worked out with them, though. That
True,
they
true,
have
true.
Kyrie, they have great pieces to build around with the two of them. So works out for all parties.
Exactly, exactly. That's the best trade. You don't wanna be like a Danny Ainge where he was like, "I will give you $5 for your team's best players and your firstborn son." And then people hang
Yeah.
up on him, and he's like, "Man, nobody wants to trade with me." Alright, boys, that's it. Thank you for another episode of the Better Sports Show. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that cool bullshit. Until next week, we'll see you. Peace.